Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers on the broadcast today. Formerly with Battleborn Progress, now a political consultant, Annette Magnus joins us here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the air conditioning back on today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why sweat for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your air conditioning fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
It's a good time to eat. It's a good time to play.
It's a good time to win.
Ooh, your good times are tamarack.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are pleased to welcome to the program for the first time Annette Magnus. She is a political consultant, formerly of Battleborn Progress. It is a pleasure to have you on the program.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You're very welcome. So as a political consultant, who are you consulting with?
Well, right now I'm consulting with a national group, doing some work on social media and getting ready for the 2024 election. And, you know, I just left Battleborn Progress in June, and we had a very exciting legislative session with them. So I'm also just taking a little bit of time with my family. My husband and I are getting ready to travel to Germany for a little bit. So we're excited about that. We're taking some time, and it's been nice to actually get to see him and be at home with him and, you know, get to know my family again after 10 years of that work.
So tell me, what did you think of the previous session that just ended?
Yeah, you know, I think for us as the progressive movement, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of expectations going into this legislative session. You have a mixed government. You have the Republicans controlling the governor's office. You have the Democrats controlling the Assembly and Senate. And so for me, it was really important to keep expectations low in case they couldn't come to some sort of agreement on key issues that we were working on. I will say, coming out of this legislative session, I was pleasantly surprised. There was quite a few things that we were able to get done, that we were able to move the ball forward on, even if it was just in a small way. There were actually several very big wins that we were very proud of to work on. And I think there was a lot of important compromise that happened during the legislative session between the governor's office and the legislative body. I do think, you know, you are seeing a governor who is not used to legislating, who is used to being fully in charge and not having to work with another body to get things done. And we both know the name of the game in the legislative process is compromise, especially in a state like Nevada, where oftentimes we work in a bipartisan fashion. And so I was pleasantly surprised with this session. And I think having low expectations going in really enabled us to kind of fight like the underdog and push for some really important wins that we got.
All right, so let's unpack a whole bunch of the things that you were saying there. First of all, I think people will be shocked to know who are outside of the process of how much bipartisanship there is in terms of getting things done. So tell us some of the things that might surprise people to know that both sides were able to work on. And by the way, I'm a big fan of divided government because I think that brings people close to the center.
Yeah, I think a lot of Nevadans are the same way, Sam. I think that Nevadans have a libertarian streak that runs through all of us, regardless of their party registration. And we want government to leave us alone. I think that's the biggest thing that Nevadans want. And so I think you often see divided government in Nevada. When I worked for now Congresswoman Dina Titus during the 2005 and 2007 legislative session, the exact same thing happened, right? We had a divided government, but we still got a lot of stuff done. And that's kind of been the history of Nevada. We've always been able to work across party lines. You don't often see the gridlock you see nationally. And you're able to see Democrats and Republicans working together on critical issues. One of the bills I want to highlight is Melanie Scheibel's SB 163. That bill is a transgender rights bill that allows people to access health care through their insurance. And that expanded services for transgender people to allow them to seek medical care through their insurance. The governor signed that bill into law, and that was met with bipartisan support. So we were really proud to work on that bill with many of our folks across the aisle and, our partners across the state to make sure that bill got through. And we were pleasantly surprised when the governor signed it. I was very proud of that work. And you saw him do that on a number of issues. There were also issues.
Okay, hang on. Let's back up to this, just because this has become such a controversial issue.
Right.
And, whether you look at immigration or, civil rights, gay rights, whatever, we are going through a social revolution in this country, the like of which we have not seen since the late 60s into the 70s. And I lived in the Bay Area in the mid-70s and saw this for myself. Obviously a lot of activity with the gay community and getting politicians into office, the tragedy of the Harvey Milk assassination. And you have to have social upheaval because there's always going to be one group or another that is being beaten up for one reason or another, in some cases literally. And so you have to have social revolutions to get that group up to the next level. Unfortunately, you always have another group coming behind them who's going to be taking that turn in the barrel. So what do you think the fear is? And I would say more so than anything on a national level about people who are transgender.
I think it's the fear of the unknown. A lot of times people don't understand what other people are going through, and they don't take the time to educate themselves and learn about other people. My husband is actually a great example of this. When I met him, he was a Republican from rural Montana, and he had never been exposed to, many people of color, to trans people, to the LGBTQ plus community. And so through education and through just meeting other human beings who are going through these different things, he was able to educate himself and come along to be one of the best advocates I know for that community. He has been a fantastic leader in that community, being an ally to that community. One of the things that is important when we're talking about educating yourself is actually going online, doing research, going to reputable websites and making sure you understand what people are going through, because oftentimes I think this hate and this rhetoric is based in fear. And so if you educate yourself, you're not going to be fearful anymore.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's based on fear. I have found that by introducing yourself or having somebody introduced to you, whether it be a nationality or a different approach to life, whether it's gay, transgender, or whatever it might be, you can hate something you don't know, that you just have an image of, but when you meet a person and you deal with that person, you have a whole different perspective on things. I thought there was a very good piece on Sunday Morning, the CBS show, a couple of weeks ago, where they were talking with a family of a transgender boy. And this boy had had, several attempts at suicide at a very young age. And the kid did not want to appear on the show, but the parents did and talked about that. There was another story about a little girl that wants to dress as a boy. And, that is what is making that child comfortable. I don't know all the answers. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. Or a sexual expert. But, people have to have an awareness and understanding, just as they did with the gay movement. Because when I was a kid growing up, I had an uncle who was gay, and he would go out in the streets of London on a weekend and regularly get beaten up. And my family just treated that as a normal thing, where so-and-so goes out and gets beaten up. That would be, of course, totally unacceptable today. So I think we have to evolve as a society, and that's one of the things we have to evolve. And I think, and I'm trying not to compare the two, but if you look, in terms of the Hispanic community, for example, in the Western United States, it is such a huge population that pretty much all of us have come to know Hispanic people, Mexican people, people of all different nationalities, and become friends with them and do business with them. And so we don't have the concerns that others do. I get your thought on that just for a second.
Yeah, I think that so much in our society is, again, a fear of the unknown. I was lucky to grow up in Las Vegas with lots of different people and diversity and inclusion here. And I think that the trans community, well, I know that the trans community has always been here. You have always known people who are transgender.
Yeah, of course.
Being transgender has happened since the beginning of time. It happens in animals. It is a scientific fact. And the bottom line is if we really want to live our true Nevada roots, again, that libertarian spirit that I talked about at the beginning of the show, where people leave people alone and let them live their lives like we do in Nevada on so many issues. I think it's imperative on this issue to do the same thing. And who am I to sit here and tell someone what healthcare they should and should not access? It's no different than me saying, I don't want people in my business when it comes to my reproductive health. And so for me, as a Nevadan, a native Nevadan who was born and raised here, I believe that it's nobody's business what somebody wants to do with their body, as long as it's consensual and people are seeking medical care. We want to make sure that they're doing the best thing for them, because you're right, the suicide rates are through the roof with these young people who are going through transitions. They're through the roof for people who are not able to access adequate medical care. And so in my mind, this is a basic human right.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back more with Annette Magnus right after this timeout.
The casino industry drove Nevada's economy for decades. By the 1990s, however, the state's sole industry was in sharp decline. Many were losing their homes, many were leaving the state. Is Reno on track to be the Detroit of the West? Was an October 2010 Reno Gazette-Journal headline. Nevada knew it was time for a change and a time to diversify. Story County took that lead, took risks, invested tens of millions transforming its desert into a place of opportunity and a future for Nevada families needing something new. That desert now provides thousands of high-paying tech, advanced manufacturing, and energy careers at companies like Tesla, Panasonic, Google, Switch, and Redwood Materials. Story County transformed Northern Nevada forever, and the tide of opportunity has raised all vessels through construction contracts, high-paying careers, and the power of payroll. Tens of millions have been generated in sales and property tax, permits, and other revenues for Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and for all of Nevada. Enough, in fact, to generate a surplus after public services are provided. And best of all, a sustainable economic climate has been created, enabling our children to stay in Nevada and live prosperous lives in their home state. Story County, improving Northern Nevada one industry at a time.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Big R in Sparks is located on Bering Boulevard next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. for workwear and everyday wear. Evaporative coolers, outdoor living, Weber's, Traeger's, and Lodge. Fill your propane tanks here. Big R on Bering Boulevard in Sparks, next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. Big R. Hardware, clothing, and a whole lot more.
Carson Valley Inn, it's your place for the good times. Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Annette Magnus, formerly of Battleborn Progress and now a political consultant. Let's talk about the governor for a second and the governor's office. You mentioned at the top of the show, that he doesn't have a lot of legislative experience, and that, of course, is true, although I'm sure, had been to the legislature to lobby on behalf of Metro on many occasions. But as his chief of staff, he has one of the most experienced people in politics in the state in Ben Kieckhofer, and somebody who I think is trusted by a lot of people on both sides of the aisle. What were your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, I think he made a wise decision having Mr. Kieckhofer there as his chief of staff. He also has many other experienced staff members underneath. And I think it's really important to have that experience going into a legislative session when you don't have necessarily the experience of legislating in your past. And so I think Ben Kieckhofer did a good job trying to work across the aisle, coming over. I saw him many times in the building at the end, coming over to negotiate and to talk about the end game. I thought it was really interesting also, though, to talk about the leadership in the Assembly and Senate, because you also saw a huge transition there as well, losing Speaker Jason Frierson and gaining Speaker Yeager. And, Senate Majority Leader Cannizzaro, I thought she really now had the opportunity to step up, and she was working with her former colleague, Ben Kieckhofer. I do think they have a good relationship. And so it was interesting to see all of those relationships working together and trying to come to a compromise about many of these critical issues for Nevadans. And I thought the Senate in particular did a really great job this session doing that work.
I think one of the things that always impresses me is when somebody becomes the governor or the president of a country, that they become the governor or the president of all the people rather than just the party that they came from. And it seemed to me that, as you're saying, that the negotiating behind the scenes did show some of that statesmanship.
Well, look, if you look at the numbers, the governor did not win by a landslide. There was no narrative around he has a mandate of any kind. He ran and won narrowly. And he does have a responsibility to represent all of us, all Nevadans, regardless of whether we voted for him or not. And he has a responsibility to work with all of us as well. And again, there were issues we knew were going to be a very uphill battle to work with him on, but we still tried, and we won in some cases we failed. But I think you saw a willingness to at least be open-minded and talk to people on those issues, which was a good first step for many of us. I think there were
so what was your biggest win? Biggest win, biggest loss?
Biggest loss was the gun bills. We had 3 really important gun bills that were common sense pieces of legislation. AB 354 and 355, which would have banned guns at polling locations and banned guns or made it illegal for people who are younger than 21 to purchase assault rifles. And then we also had Senate Bill 171, which was Senator Harris's bill to ban people who've been convicted of hate crimes from accessing guns. Unfortunately, he vetoed those. And I thought those were incredibly common sense bills, especially from somebody who came from law enforcement. He should understand the reasons why we brought those bills. So I was disappointed in that. I think another
But
big
politically, that made sense for him.
Yeah, right.
I mean, because when you look at rural Nevada and their votes for him, that was really where he won the election.
Yeah, I do think, though, if you're willing to commit and then be convicted of a hate crime, you probably shouldn't have access to a weapon. And I don't care where you live. And I'm a gun owner myself. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe there are limits on that Second Amendment. And so for me, that's a really important issue. And it wasn't something extreme. I thought it was very common sense, especially after everything we've seen with hate crimes being on the rise across the country, especially in communities of color. But some of the wins we saw, Senate Bill 131, which was Senator Nicole Canizaro's abortion bill to protect people who were coming here for abortion services so that they can't be extradited and charged with something in their state.
And that was codifying what Governor Sisolak had done.
Exactly. And it was a campaign promise that Governor Lombardo made, and he kept his promise. And so I will give that to him. And I thought that was a huge win. Again, while the rest of the country is going backwards on things like abortion and transgender rights, Nevada continues to move forward, even with the Republican governor. And so I think that's a huge win for us.
All right, let's take another break. More with Annette Magnus when we come back.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you. But we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Annette Magnus. She is a political consultant, formerly of Battle-Born Progress. The U.S. Senate race in Nevada. Your thoughts on this? Because, as you pointed out earlier, even with the redistricting, Governor Lombardo still got elected.
He did. I think it's going to be a really important race nationally. I think people should be paying attention to it nationally. I think that hopefully, funders and national folks are going to take Nevada seriously this cycle, unlike what we saw in 2020. We can't have them coming in last minute panicking because suddenly Nevada isn't blue. Nevada is not a blue state. It's also not a red state. It is a purple state and will continue to be. So I think that race is going to be really important. And I think Senator Rosen is going to run a great race. She's already got great fundraising going on. And I think it's going to be exciting.
Do you even want to take a stab at how much money is going to pile into this state on both sides?
It's going to be millions upon millions of dollars, especially with the presidential race this year. It depends on who the Republican nominee is, I think. But,
Who would you like? Who would you like?
Who would I like? Donald Trump. I think it's going to be...
No. I'm talking about in the Senate race.
I think Senator Rosen has a great shot. I'm really...
No. I know. I'm saying if you got to pick who the Republican opponent would be based on what you know so far, who would you like to see?
I would like to stick with Sam Brown. I think, the senator from the North, Heidi Gansert, is very dangerous. I think she's very smart. And
she said she's not going to run.
But I think she would be the best opponent, Republican-wise, to have a chance against Jackie Rosen. But I think, for us, I think the person who they have nominated right now, I think is going to be great. I'm excited about it.
Let's talk about the presidential race. Just a lot of concern about Joe Biden's age and, the vice president who is now, as the New York Times reported yesterday, getting out there on the stump and really attacking issues in a way that she hasn't done for the last 3 years. But people have concerns that if something happens to the president, that she would become president, and they're concerned about that. You've got about 45 seconds.
I am not concerned about Joe Biden's age. I think the last 4 years have been really great years. Just knowing that I can go to bed at night and not be afraid of what Donald Trump was going to do to me overnight is a relief. Having some normalcy back in the presidency has been fantastic. And I think he's gotten our economy back on track after COVID. I think Donald Trump is dangerous, and I don't think we want another 4 years of that nonsense, because that's what it was. I think Kamala Harris is fantastic. I actually voted for her in the primary, and or I would have voted for her in the primary if she had made it on the ballot in Nevada. But we have one of our own, Megan Jones, working for her, which I'm very proud of. And I think, she's really getting out there on the stump, and she's doing what she needs to do.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Please come back.
Thanks for having me finally. I'm so excited to be here.
You are very welcome. We look forward to having you come back.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam.
And we'll be right back.
7 at 7 is a newscast built for your smartphone. It's a 7-minute newscast available every weekday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at lvrj.com. We don't waste your time, and we give you the day's top stories.
We at the RJ have noticed some similarities between us and a certain BTS character, RJ.
Plus the latest in Las Vegas business, weather, health, and entertainment news. 7 at 7 streaming now on your smartphone.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
It's a good time to win.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. You can catch us online 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com, or you can download the podcast wherever you like to get your podcast. We'll see you on the next broadcast.